Well, hello students. This is Professor Shalomo Levy, and once again it is a pleasure to welcome you to this course on the history of the Middle East. Before the course began, you should have received a letter from me introducing myself, giving you some basic information about the course. The course syllabus was attached, and a link to some videos that explain my background, my teaching qualifications, my experience, my approach to this material. And so I'm recording this video kind of as a follow-up to make sure everyone is settled into the course and to give you some additional information and walk you through some of the things that I prepared for you. First of all, a little background about the course. I hope that this course is going to be as enjoyable and rewarding for you as it was for me, because when I was an undergraduate in college, probably about your age, I spent the spring of my junior year studying in the Middle East. And I got to learn about the Middle East from actually being there. I spent the semester at Tel Aviv University. I traveled broadly to Egypt and Morocco. I traveled to the West Bank. The people, the religion, the history was all a part of my actual learning experience. And in the years since then, I've had the opportunity to make friends and travel back frequently. And so I hope that you get the same kind of experience about the Middle East from studying it in this course. I've been teaching here at Northampton Community College for over 20 years, and this course was traditionally taught on ground. And I specifically remember teaching it in 2023, in the fall of 2023. And you can imagine when the events of October 7th occurred, when Hamas attacked Israelis and people were killed. We were sitting in our classroom. We'd have class on Monday and Wednesday. And in the subsequent weeks, as thousands of Palestinians were being killed in Gaza, we would come to class every day on Monday and Wednesday. And because events were unfolding as our class was taking place, we would always take a few minutes at the beginning of class to talk about current events. Wherever we were in the syllabus, we would talk about what's actually going on in the Middle East while we're taking this course on the history of the Middle East. Of course, the course covers over 10,000 years of history, from the beginnings of human civilization up into the present. And so what I want to do in this online version, and the reason we're offering it as an online version is we didn't get enough enrollment last year in the fall of the spring to run it. And so the college thought maybe if we offer it as an online class and possibly as a 7-week accelerated class, which appeals to a lot of students these days, online, shorter classes, that we might attract enough students. So that's how this course came about. What I'm hoping we don't lose in the process of being online, where I don't get to see the students, we're not in the same classroom together. So I created a discussion room in Brightspace where we could still have these dialogues, right? Where we could talk about not only what's assigned on the syllabus that week, but we could talk about events as they're unfolding in the world. While our course is going on this year in 2026, there's a war going on in Iran. And so, you're in a class on the Middle East history. So if there's any class where we can talk about these things, it should be in this class. So I want to kind of walk you through some of those things. I hope by this point, all of you have, gotten the syllabus for the course. You've purchased the books in any format that you want. Again, it's available digital, which is popular. I gave you the links to Amazon, but you could also get the paperback if you still like to have books and turn the pages and tab and mark and underline. Then you could do that. The book that we're using, A Concise History of the Middle East, is one of the best textbooks of its kind for this. It's now, I guess, in its 12th or 13th edition, which tells you something about how long people have been using it and studying it. And it's written by two scholars and experts in the Middle East, one Jewish, one Muslim. And so they kind of balance each other out and make sure that everything that's contained in the book are things that they agree with. And then the second part of the course, when we do get to the Arab-Israeli conflict, then we'll be reading The 100 Years' War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. I've added that, even though it's covered in the textbook is such a detailed topic. Originally, we just spent 2 weeks on it. In the 14-week semester, we would just spend 2 weeks. And in the revised version, since it's so important, we spend about a third of the course delving into that. So when we get to that, we'll look at some specialized books, both Khalid Rashidi's 100-Year War in Palestine, and also Alan Dershowitz's The Case for Israel. So we'll look at it from both perspectives and compare arguments, and in all of these subjects, students will reach their own conclusions about that. But if you look at our syllabus, what I want to make sure you noticed in that is, even though this is an online course, I have, as you can see here, office hours every week. So my office is in College Center, room 323, and students can come see me there on Mondays between 12:30 and 2, on Wednesdays between 12:30 and 2, and also on Thursdays from 1 to 2. If you can't come on campus and see me, then I also have Zoom appointments. So I'll be in my office, and you can connect to the Zoom, and we could talk about the reading, talk about anything related to the course, and that's still available to online students just as it would be to students on the ground. The other thing I want to make sure that students are settled into is the format. So you're using this book here, The Concise History of the Middle East, you read those chapters each week, and I would say that's what you should start with first. Then look at my PowerPoint presentations. And these are presentations that I use with students in the live classroom. So these are basically my notes. Is what I would be speaking about. It does follow the text of the book, but also include some of my own research, documents, maps, pictures from my own trips and things that are included in there. So definitely look at the PowerPoint presentations, because that's what I would be presenting to students live in class, and so you can still get the benefit of that. Then we have videos. So I found some good YouTube videos, some documentaries on different parts. So this is a great documentary called The Greatness of the Islamic Empire, and I highly recommend it, and I think that students would benefit from watching those. So that would be an example of what you would do week one. Most of you have already submitted your introductory assignments, which is to write about your history. And that assignment is great because, first of all, we look at our own lives and see how history has shaped who we are, right? Our ancestry, and the choices that we've made in our own lives. And then we broaden it out to look at the history of a country, history of a region. And so that was the first assignment, and from that you see every semester that we have some great students. I mean, students from all over the world, students from different backgrounds. What they all have in common, though, are they are very intelligent, they are all interested in this subject matter, and they bring a unique perspective. And so this is why we enjoy, whether it's in class or online, interacting with each other, that you're not taking a class with a computer, but with real people, a real professor and fellow students. In week two, similar format each week. There's a folder for each week of the course, and there's a schedule of what week we're in, so you can look and see how the weeks work. In a 7-week course, when the weeks start, when they end. The weeks always start on Monday, and I expect students to finish all the assignments by Friday. I always keep the assignments open on Saturday and Sunday for students who might need the weekend. That is, something came up and you didn't finish everything during that week, then as long as you get it in by midnight on Sunday, then it will still be accepted. But try not to get in the habit of procrastinating and putting everything off until Sunday. So try to work Monday to Wednesday around your own schedule, but if something comes up, then you always have the weekend to catch up. So you always have what chapters of the books you're supposed to read that week. Week 2, students are reading from chapters 6 to 9. They have, again, my presentations. This week there are 2 presentations because in a 7-week course, we have to go twice as fast as I would in a 14-week course. So there are some advantages in having these accelerated classes, but to cover the same amount of material in half the time means we have to go twice as fast. So normally these two lectures, The Rise of Islam and the Mongolian Empire, that is the Age of Foreign Invaders, would have been two separate lectures, and I would have given one week and the next one the following week. But because we go twice as fast, then we do two lectures a week basically. So that's why you have two presentations, and you would look at both of those. And then I have some YouTube videos that I found that I think are helpful. So this is one that describes the period of the Crusades, the Christian invasions of the Middle East. I have a video, one of the Mongols, the leading Mongol, Genghis Khan, and his invasion. This video is one that I thought was good because it talks about when and where Islam stopped spreading. So it spread all across North Africa, well into Europe, into Russia, as far as Spain, and it stopped when it got to France. And this video asks a hypothetical question: what if Islam had continued to spread throughout the rest of Europe? It's a hypothetical, counterfactual question, but it's an interesting one for us to think about. How would the world be different today? And we have that. And lastly, you have a video on the great Saladin the Great. So all of these are mentioned in the textbook. They're mentioned in my PowerPoint presentations. I wouldn't say they're all required, but I think they're helpful. So you can read about it. Those of you who are audiovisual learners and you learn by watching either lectures or watching videos, then you'll find this a good supplement to the text. And then each week now you'll see this discussion. When you go into the discussion room, there, this is where I try to replicate the experience of being in a classroom with other students. So here students can discuss among themselves. This is not a mediated forum. They can discuss anything they found interesting from the textbook chapters that week. Or you can talk about something you found interesting from one of my presentations. And the third option is to talk about current events, what's happening in the Middle East right now while the course is going on. And I don't know what the future holds, what's going to happen next month, next week. But whatever happens, this is the class where we can talk about it. And so you could go into the chat room and you could start a thread. The way this works, if you haven't used these online chat rooms before, you would, here's an example here, and I already have some students posting, but you would create a thread. A thread is like a conversation room within that, and you would give it a title of what you want to talk about. So if you want to talk about ancient Egypt, you would call it Ancient Egypt and give your opinions about that, and other students interested in that would join the conversation and add their comments and reactions to that. If instead you want to talk about the current war in Iran, then you would label it the war in Iran, and then open it up and write about it, talk about what you think is going on in that context. And students who want to join that conversation could open it up and participate in that. By labeling it, students can join the conversations that they're most interested in. Or if they're conversations that they want to avoid, then they know not to go in that room, because in that room students are talking about this. But you should read and comment. These are short essays, maybe a paragraph, a couple of paragraphs long, and generally, and you would put that in there. So for this week already, we have one of our students, Mason, and he wants to talk about the current events of what's going on right now. So, and then he posted his essay, and you could read it, you could reply, you could post something new, and this is how we kind of replicate that feeling of being in a class with a live professor, with actual students. The rules of the assignment are always to be respectful and to try to give analytical assessments based on facts and evidence, right? And that's the beauty of being in a class like this, where you're interacting with other informed individuals, people who know something about the history of the Middle East. And so that kind of dialogue and exchange of ideas, makes us all better, and we learn from each other. So I want to call your attention to the fact that that's there, and you'll be using that every week and posting it, and I'll read it and I'll grade it, but I won't moderate in the sense of debating or so this is really for students to interact. And even in class, what I try to do is to facilitate a conversation, to facilitate a dialogue, and not just give my opinion about things. And then when I do, then to take it with a grain of salt and think critically about everything you read, everything you see, everything you hear. So those are most of the things. The last thing I want to call your attention to is the option to do an extra credit paper or an honors paper. Some of you have specific interests, and it may be a topic that in this course I only spent a week on, or there are only a few slides on, but it could be something that you're really interested in. And in that case, perhaps you should do a paper on it. In a 14-week semester, students, at least in my honors classes, they would be required to do a paper. So we can make it like an honors class if you're up to that. And this is, again, is voluntary. It's not required for this course. But if you have a specific interest, it might be a good idea to write a paper on it. And that would allow you to get some depth. We have a lot of breadth. We cover, a lot of history and a lot of time. But to go deeper into any of these subjects would require, reading more books, more articles, and writing, a 5 to 8 page paper on it. This would be like making it an honors class. And I hope one day we'll have the honors version of the course if it becomes popular enough. But you can make it an honors class. You just need to decide early, because it takes, a few weeks to research and write a paper. So it's not something you can do at the last 2 weeks of the course. We only have 7 weeks, so you need to decide very soon what you're going to do. If you do decide to do a paper, if there's a topic you want to do, then I have all the information you need for that in terms of what the requirements would be, the format and structure, and then you would submit a one-page proposal saying, I would like to do a paper on, and as long as you include the sources that you would use, the books and articles that you're able to find on that subject, and it's relevant to some aspect of Middle East history, then it would be approved. And then you would have, maybe 4 or 5 weeks to work on it. Show me the outline, show me the draft, and submit it by the end of the course, and you'll get extra credit for it. If you need the credit, that is, I could give you credit for it, it would be equal to a unit exam in the course. Often students who write these papers are already getting A's. I mean, they're doing well academically, so they're doing it to make the course more interesting and more challenging, because they want to learn more about a particular subject. But if you should get a low grade on any exam, then I could count that paper as extra credit, and that will lift your average up again. The third reason why sometimes students do it is they plan to go into a 4-year college or university. And so then the question is like, how do I get a scholarship? How can I get admitted to a competitive college or university? And so winning some prizes, writing an essay, maybe entering your essay in an essay contest, and winning a prize for your essay would help distinguish you. And so students write on their college applications, I wrote a paper on some aspect of the Middle East. I entered in a contest, I won an award, and that says a lot about your academic ability. So that's a strategy to think about. So as I said, those are the things I would like you to know, and I hope that you're enjoying the course already. As you know, you can always come by and see me. I'm around 3 hours a week every week. Send me emails, and I'll be looking at your assignments and your discussions each week in Brightspace. So again, I hope you're enjoying the course. Take care and be well.